All right, welcome to Talking Halos. It's Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partners in crime, and we're in a rush tonight. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, it's Thursday night. The Angels lost again because let's be really, they kind of suck right now. All right, but we got two things going on. The trash pan is going for the playoffs tonight. Go, Jared. Say it. Yay! Go.
Going, trying to make it to
Trying.
the World Series.
He totally misses Q there. Okay, and Brown Steelers later on. I mean, come on, man. I got stuff to do, but we do want to have a conversation about the Angels. We're getting questions left and right, and the big thing is what comes to mind is in a perfect world, how does your Angels offseason look like? So in that scope, what we're going to look for is in Nate's perfect world, what do they do? What do they accomplish? In Jared's perfect world, what do they do? What do they accomplish? And of course, in my perfect world, which is always wacky, what do I want to see? But before we even get there, Jared, you have a question.
I do, and I asked this before to Nate, and I'll ask it to you because you have, to put it nicely, more experience than we do in this field.
What are you saying? I'm old. Okay.
That was his nice way of saying that.
Is this the best season in baseball history? Just baseball history in general. Are we seeing the best season of all time?
No.
Not individual season, but like in general. No.
He says no.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
I think I didn't watch baseball in the early thousands, late 90s, and I think that's when it was like a lot of fun. That's where I would guess, but I don't know.
1998.
Okay. Is that
1998?
Yeah.
This has been a great baseball season. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if even though our team just fell apart on us in terms of everything that's happened this year, in terms of what we saw out of Shohei Ohtani, what we saw from Aaron Judge, and what we've seen from different teams, seeing the Mets and the Braves going down the wire here, a lot of cool races. But also, if I want to look from a different scope of things, the I know people are like, well, Royds, Andro, with McGuire and Sosa. Listen, people don't understand. I mean, if you for the younger folks, you don't get the baseball in terms of 1998 was on life support. It really was. It was the 94 strike really, really ticked a lot of people off, and fans weren't coming back. And even though years later we've seen the steroids thing happen, all that kind of jazz, that 98 race for the home run between Sosa and the Cardinals. And plus, it was a good baseball season all around. It really brought people back. And then, not 99, because 99 was but 2001 and 2002, those are also really good baseball seasons. And you're seeing Barry Bonds to his peak. So 1998 was, to me, the launching point in terms of in this modern era of what was the best baseball season there because of those personal races of everything else that went with it. And then what it led to now, what may change how we view 2022 is what happens in the next 3-4 years. How does baseball move from here? With rules changes coming next year, with the different with these players moving forward, what happens with Shohei? What happens with the Mets franchise as they are now kind of emerging as? Let's be honest, the Mets are better than the Yankees this year, and they're both good. How do the Yankees respond in the AL East when they have now 3 legit contenders, probably 4 heading in the next year? The Red Sox won't be down forever, so I see a lot of great things in our game right now, but what does 2022 lead to? So in my mind right now, 1998 is it in this modern era. 2022 could 10 years from now, we could be looking back and going, okay, yeah, 2022 was it. But right now for me, 98.
It's interesting. I mean, Nate brought it up and talked about it a couple
That
podcasts
makes me
ago.
feel better because I said 2001. So that
2001 was a great season. When Seattle comes through there and wins 116 games. And then the following year in 2020, when 2002, when our Angels, people oftentimes forget that was a 3-team race.
Yep.
And that was the Angels team that started 6-14. So for us personally, and plus baseball was great that year too. The Yankees were a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun watching the Angels beat up on the Yankees. Okay.
Of course.
It was a really good season. Barry Bonds was darn near unstoppable that year in the National League, and then faced him in the World Series. So, but that all to me kicks 1998 is what kicks that off. That's what it's like, the lead-in season for that. If 1998 doesn't happen, I'm not sure, or the rest of that kind of works out that way. So that's why I say 98.
2002 had the streak too, Oakland streak, and people forget the Angels had a streak almost like it was Oakland probably gained 4 games during that 21 win streak. Like the Angels were winning games the same amount. Like maybe they lost a couple games here and there, but I mean they were winning games at the same pace as Oakland during that streak, which is just unbelievable to see as that thing went down the stretch. So
Yeah, as you go back
that was
to
a lot of fun.
as we go back to that era too, when you look about the Angels team and those A's teams, and I hate talking about the A's because I freaking hate the A's, but that's when you've heard me talk on the podcast in the past couple of years about how I want baseball to be. That 2002 team is what I want baseball to be.
Absolutely.
They had power, yes, but they also played small ball. They were aggressive in the base paths. To me, they played the traditional game that we all really miss now. And if I want baseball to go back to that, that's what I look to. And so those years are special, but I mean, I keep going back to 98. 98 just had it all, and it led to everything else that came afterwards.
It's fair. I like it. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I mean, you can argue any way you go. I mean, you got Shohei this year, you got Judge, you got Albert Pujols getting close to 700.
I think if some of the races are more competitive,
yeah,
we're talking about something different. But the AL East has been pretty much over. The Yankees stumbled some. The AL Central, it hasn't been. These teams aren't really good. Guardians have panned out okay. The Astros ran away with the AL West. The Dodgers did what they do. The only real bona fide race left is the NL East. And so if we had more races, we're talking to it's a different story for me.
Fair.
Okay.
I like it.
So dream 2022-23 off season. And let's lay some parameters down, everybody. Well, hold on a minute. First, we got people who want to talk to you, our sponsors here, as part of the Blue Wire Network. Check them out. Bam. All right. So here's the rules. Remember, as we say this, so when you come back 2 months from now and say, well, you said this and you said that, remember, we don't know who will own the team come March. We do not know all the free agents that'll be available because we don't know who will sign extensions or arbitration or whatever. So this is just our dream scenarios here, okay? And then finally, most importantly, allow us to have some fun with this. This will not be, it's again, a dream scenario. So if you think Nate is going to be ultra negative here, well, let's be honest. If he's ultra negative here in a dream scenario, we all should beat him up on this, okay? He should be having some fun here. So hold him accountable, folks. All right. And because of that, I'm going to go with Nate first. Nate, if this is your dream off season, things go your way.
Yeah, people are going to be upset with this early on, but I think you keep Phil Nevin as the interim manager until a new owner comes in. I do. I think the new owner should have complete and utter say in who his GM is, who his manager is. Like, we don't want to have to go through the same thing we've been going through for the last, 10 years, where it's, GM hires manager and then GM gets fired and then GM comes in and has to keep manager that's already there. We don't want to have to go through that. So I would keep Nevin as the interim manager until the team is sold. When the team is sold, I hope the Angels get a president of baseball operations, which would be awesome. I know Dayton Moore just became available. John Daniels just became available. Those two guys would work really well with Perry Manasian if that is the way they go. If Dayton Moore or John Daniels wanted another guy, that works too. But I think that's where this offseason needs to start, with new ownership making the decisions up top instead of, hey, Artie's in charge for right now. We're going to let Perry Manasian make a new manager call, and he hires a guy and the new owner comes in and goes, nope, don't want this guy, don't want this GM. And then we're set back another year in the rebuilding process. So the other thing that I think needs to be accomplished this offseason, we need a shortstop. Trey Turner is the guy. He's the perfect person for this Angels team. The Angels would have to spend a lot of money to bring him in. I understand that, but dream scenario, we're going to spend a lot of money. So Trey Turner comes in and he is the leadoff hitter the Angels need. He's the guy who's going to get on base. He's going to steal bases, like you were talking about, Derek, where he's going to be able to play aggressively. He's going to be a very good defender at shortstop as well. So I think starting off with the offseason, Trey Turner would be outstanding to start with. And then I would love to see him go get 3 pitchers. I don't know who those 3 pitchers are off the top of my head, just because we talked about this. We don't know who's going to be available. We know, Clevenger's probably going to be available, and some of these other guys, but I don't know if there's a true ace that is going to be available, and I don't know if that they necessarily need to go get that true ace right now. If they can go get 3 pitchers to really help this rotation, because Detmers has shown signs, Sandoval has shown signs, and as of right now, we're keeping Shohei Ohtani because the new owner is going to do whatever he wants with that. And if the new owner wants to extend Ohtani, then he's going to extend Ohtani. So I think that needs to go. And then the last thing, I would like to see him go get one more outfield piece. I think they need a guy who can play maybe a little bit of first base and a little bit of outfield. Mark Canha was the guy last year who made sense. I'm looking for a guy kind of like that this year, maybe a Jock Peterson. I don't know. Somebody who's going to play the outfield and be able to play first base, because depending on what happens with Jared Walsh, we don't know how long it's going to be for him. And just we don't know what Joe Adell is going to be. We really haven't seen the development we've wanted to see with Joe Adell. So to see someone just to be able to challenge him a little bit and give him, just a drive to beat somebody, because I think if the job is his, it's going to be a little bit harder for him. Like if he struggles early, what are the Angels going to do? So dream scenario, I think those are the things the Angels accomplish during this offseason.
You ready to go there, Jared? I mean, can you top that?
I can actually, yeah. They're gonna sell the team. I think that's number one. I'd love to see Mark Zuckerberg. I'm just kidding. Come on. Okay, come on now.
Man,
See,
come on.
and they
I don't
call
care.
me
See, that's
negative, and then
not
he
positive
says,
at all. That's like,
Yeah. and they call me negative.
All right. I'm kidding. They're gonna sell the team. But I think we're all pretty sold on that. Until that happens, though, I think everybody stays in place. I don't think that I don't know if Perry hires anybody. I don't think Perry can. I'm intrigued to know what Artie does. It's going to be the story of the offseason. Does he give Perry a leash? Does he say nope, don't spend anything? I'm intrigued to know. If it's a dream world, though, Angels sell the team within the next 2 weeks or so. We start getting more and more traction. Perry stays in a GM role. I'm totally cool with that. I like Perry. I like him. I don't know how I feel as a drafter. However, he's put enough around him, and by that I mean there are plenty of guys that have done a very good job of development this year that I trust that they can do some stuff in the draft now. It didn't feel that way for a little while, for a couple of years, where it was like, I don't know what this guy is. I don't know what this guy is. We're starting to see it now. I'm starting to see a picture, and as I sit here and watch Trash Pandas a little bit, there's something there. So I trust Perry in a GM role. I would, like Nate, I would also love to see them bring in president of baseball operations. That's something that's been brought to the table a lot by a lot of people that I talk to, and I think that would help Perry out tremendously. Because Artie and Carpino have in a sense been that guy as of late, and we've seen how that works, and I'm not with it. You need somebody that knows baseball, so bring in a player ops guy, and I'm cool with that. From there, I'd love to see. I'm not a big Phil Nevin fan. I don't think I ever have been. I'd love to see Ron Washington. If we're gonna go that route, that's my number one guy there. I really like Ron Washington. This offseason, yeah, I think that. I mean, it makes sense too if Perry sticks around while Ron Washington was there in Atlanta with Perry, and I just think it makes a lot of sense. I know Angel fans are going to be like, "Oh, he was in Texas." It's like you need somebody to be a leader. You need somebody who can speak the language and speak it well, kind of like Perry. And I think that they would be on a very, very good. They would be in a very good relationship. First off, which is what you need. We've had this conversation before. And second, I just think that I think they get each other. I think that they mesh well. I think there's going to be plenty of analytics, but I also think there will be that old school baseball as well with Ron. However, I could totally see Perry bringing in just a new school kid, like just some 35-year-old coming out of nowhere, Sean McVay type guy, which would be really cool. And just tell him, this is how we're running it. You listen to me, and if it doesn't happen, we're going to lose games. So we'll see how the offseason goes on that side of things. As far as everything goes, Angels need a catcher. I don't mind Logan O'Hoppe, but bringing up a Logan O'Hoppe type guy to play 100 games, 120 games at the major league level, and expecting him to produce in his first season is suicide. We've seen this before. We'll see it again. I think the Angels need a catcher, and I'd love to see them bring in another guy like Max Stassi and Austin Hedges. Just in general, I would love to see a lefty. If it's Omar Narvaez, that'd be pretty cool as well. The Angels need a first baseman. I don't know which way they go there. I like Nate's idea with somebody who can play the outfield and play some first base. So I don't know if Joey Gallo, I think, can do that a little bit. Jock Peterson can do that a little bit. There are a couple guys on that market that can do that. But again, Jared Walsh is a huge question mark coming off that surgery. Not 100% sure what goes on. Angels need a shortstop. Like that is my number one thing on the wish list. Like the Angels need a shortstop. It's not going to be Zach Neto. If it is, the Angels aren't going to be a winning team. They're not going to be a contender next year. Neto's at second base, a little bit different story. But the Angels need a true shortstop next year, and I think it needs to be somebody like Trey Turner or Bogarts. I've been preaching Dansby Swanson because oddly enough, he was an Atlanta Brave, and it makes a lot of sense. He follows the Perry trait, and that's going to be how it is. I know he's having a career year, and you're going to have to pay for it, but you're getting a legitimate shortstop who can play there and is not David Fletcher, is not Luis Renifo, and is not Andrew Velasquez. And then I'm also on the train as well with Nate. The Angels need an outfielder. They need one of those guys really, really badly. However, I'm intrigued to know what Moniak is. I'm intrigued to know what Adele is, and I think they're going to get all spring to, in a sense, figure out what they are. I think Moniak has kind of earned himself at least a starting job out of the gate, but I'd love to see them get another piece as well in there. And then on the starting pitching side of things, they need, if you're keeping Ohtani around, you need 3 pitchers at least. And I'd love to see them get a lot more depth. And I know they got a lot of it in AAA as well. If Kai Bush is one of those guys, you can work with it. If Chase Silseth is one of those guys, you can work with it. But they need at least 3 more starters, plus probably some minor league depth that they can pull from AAA. So if it all comes down to what Artie lets Perry do this offseason, like if Artie gives him a little bit of a leash, then he's going to go out and sign every.
You can't think like that.
Possible.
This is your dream scenario, man. Stop.
If it's my dream scenario, then Perry's going out there. Perry's going out there and giving 30 guys minor league deals this offseason. Like okay, that is
that realistic?
Yeah. Oh,
that's the one thing. If a dream, but it has to be a realistic dream.
I think that this is. I mean, did we think that they were going to draft 20 pitchers in a row? True. I think that it could go anyway. I think that they go out and they get so much depth. Like they're gonna be drowning in depth. I think that's the route they're gonna go. So yeah, I think. But number one's a shortstop. You have to go get a shortstop if you're starting the season with a real shortstop. Yeah, if you're starting the season with anybody else, you're not a contender.
All right, so here we go. And I'm not sure how popular this is going to be, but I was mentioning before the show, before we start recording, that I really believe that the Angels in a lot of ways have behaved, even though they spend a lot of money. Don't get me wrong here. And you've heard me mention before, they do spend a lot of money, but they tend to focus it in a couple of different areas, and that's really it. They don't really behave like a big market team, and they don't behave like a team that actually has a full organizational philosophy. And so there are 2 teams in baseball that really have done this well, in my view, like consistently done this well for the last 10 years, the Dodgers and the Rays. In my point of view, in my dream scenario, the Angels sell quickly, which probably won't happen within the next 2 months. And they are immediately raiding the Dodgers front office. I mean, I don't know who they can get away from there, but if I'm them, I'm looking at trying. I mean, I would throw every freaking amount of money I can. I would overpay out the wazoo to try and draw on these guys out of there. And I look at a guy like Andrew Friedman, who is an outstanding president of baseball operations over there. And you would think he would not leave that job, but you never freaking know. When you throw enough money and the Angels organization has potential, but it's an awesome challenge, and there's the automatically ingrained kind of rivalry there, the crosstown view, you might pull him out, or you might pull his guy next, Brandon Gomes, out there. So in my point of view, you go after and you raid that organization and you get because they do it right. You all don't, but maybe don't want to hear that, and they do it right. And from there, if Manassian's the guy, fine, great. I think he deserves time. He's made some bad decisions. He's made some, but at that point, that baseball operations guy is the guy who makes the call. We don't really, man, Jared, you're right. Who the heck is? We've been relying on just dudes trying to run an organization instead of baseball guys running the organization, and we've got 7 years to show for it. So get a baseball guy in there, and I'm saying raid the Dodgers. I'm shameless about it. Raid the Dodgers. In terms of organizational needs, beyond that, catcher, right? And I think you hit a dead point on Hoppy. Leave the guy alone. We've been bringing guys up way too early, and then look what happens. Leave him alone. Let him develop down there. Give him time. There should be no rush. If you can go out there and find somebody, even if just for a year, then you bring him in. Okay, even if it's Gary Sanchez, for crying out loud, you bring him in just for 1 year, and you got it. I can tell you who's not working for me anymore. Max Stassi's not working for me anymore. You can't just hit 200 and that be it. You got to do a little more. First base, my heart is with Jared Walsh, but was he a flash in the pan or was he real? We need something more solid at first base. And here we're not talking about this here, but because the money's spent and it's there. But third base with Anthony Rendon, okay, we got to have a better option there to back him up other than Matt Duffy. I'm sorry. But shortstop, like you guys are saying, is key. I am higher on David Fletcher than you guys are, but let's be honest, he has not been healthy. And that's a big deal. So even if you are high on him, he hasn't been healthy. And look, we've been left behind with. So going out there and spending money on Trey Turner in our perfect world, absolutely. Outfielder, yes, absolutely. So here's my question. Here's my thought process on that. An outfielder who is what? An outfielder is what? Because I want to move. Trout's not going to like it, but I want to move him outside the field. I want him in a corner spot. I want to protect him a little bit. So who do you bring in? I'm thinking a guy like a Michael Brantley or somebody else who move around. Jock Peterson, to me, is probably 2 years too late. But there you go. That's my view on it. They're going to have to spend money. I mean, pitching wise, you guys are already dead right. I almost gave you a hard time there earlier when you were talking about pitchers. I'm like, hey, Rich Hill. Okay, no, not Rich Hill. But Clevenger's out there. DeGrom might be out there. I'm not sure he'll make home reach marker or not. There's a couple interesting names out there, including Thor. On a cheaper, bringing him back for a year might work as other guys develop. So, we're pretty much all in line on what we want, except I'm saying freaking raid the Dodgers. Rate them. Pay money to get whoever you can out of there. That's my point of view.
I'm with
So,
you.
Rate them.
I mean, they've done it. They've done it before. They went and did it with the Cardinals. They went and did it with Milwaukee. They've done it in the past. So
it surprises me. I know that it probably won't because of how Artie is. That whole broken up trade a couple years ago. He probably doesn't want to rate them. But who's done it better?
Well, they brought somebody in from the Dodgers already this last year.
Yeah, there's one guy.
They brought
one guy, but
but they could go get a guy who could really be in charge of this organization, like a Josh Burns, who has been very high up in the Dodgers organization, and he could do a really good job with helping Perry and almost like working together. Like we don't necessarily need like someone to be in charge between those two guys, but we just need those two guys to understand, like, hey, you're in charge of development, you're in charge of finding big league roster guys and helping with the depth. Like if those guys can do that kind of thing, then I think the Angels could be on the right side of this thing. But if it's going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, you're in charge of everything, you've seen what happens. The teams that you've mentioned all have baseball ops guys, by the way. And you look at the teams that are winning right now, most of those teams have baseball op guys. And you think it's a coincidence.
Though? I mean, but that's also why I'm like, hey, I'm sitting thinking about the Rays. And the Rays, the only thing we're concerned about raiding the Rays is whoever's run the ship there has never had money to play with. Now,
never
Friedman
had
was there
money.
too. Friedman was there at Tampa Bay, and he's done just fine with it. But if I can somehow throw money in my dream scenario at Friedman to pull away from the Dodgers, who would have to let him go? I mean, again, dream scenario.
Yep.
Then I can see Friedman doing something like that. The guy likes a challenge. This is a challenge.
Yeah.
It comes down to development. The good teams develop. That's why they're throwing all that money out there. I mean, we know what the Angels aren't throwing money at. Development.
And in fairness, I think we're seeing improvements in development, but it's not fast enough.
And there's some easy ways to help with development as well. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Like, feed the players, pay them a little bit more, make sure they have a place to stay. Like, this was the first year that it was mandatory to make sure these guys had a place to stay. Like, now go the extra step, put a chef in every single locker room in the minor leagues. Make sure these guys can eat something that's going to help them, because giving them $7 to $10 and saying, hey, we're stopping at McDonald's before our road trip, have fun with your $10. How are these guys going to get better? Like, they're not going to be playing at their best every single day. And if we can give them something, even if it's something where like, hey, yeah, maybe we're not giving them more money, we're just paying for their food, that ends up giving them more money. And that's going to end up making them a better player, because now they're able to be at a nutrition level and sleep level where they're able to perform at their best every single day, instead of, hey, we gave you $11, go to the gas station at McDonald's, and hopefully that's enough for you guys. And and you got to play again tomorrow and be here at 10 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. Like, it's just not good for development. It's not good for these young guys, especially when you're drafting 17, 18-year-olds who have never had money before in their life.
It's like any common job where you have equipment and you got to take care of your equipment or it breaks down. Your body is a piece of equipment when you're playing a game like this. And if you're not taking care of your body, you're going to break down. And you can't take care of your body living off McDonald's. I mean,
and you mentioned it, a lot of injuries. The Angels have had a lot of injuries. I mean, I wonder why. These guys are having to really struggle through the minor leagues with what the Angels have given them. No money, not a place to stay. I mean, there have been guys staying in their cars to try and make it for the Angels. And it's like, that's not happening in other organizations. The other organizations are making sure to take care of their guys and making sure that they are able to perform at their best every single day. So that way, when they need them in the major leagues, it's like, hey, now you're ready to go. Show us what you've got.
Man, look at the Guardians, man. The Guardians have no business being 82 and whatever they are now. They have no business being 15. The way they move players out, the way they keep the payroll low, but they develop their guys, and in the organization they take care of their people. And there's a really good chance. And by the way, if you don't do your job, they get you out of there.
Yeah.
And so I look at the Guardians and think, okay, well, there's another example of a franchise that knows what it's doing, and it's all in. Say the words, Jared. You said earlier.
I don't remember what I said earlier. What did I say earlier?
Player development.
Player development.
Yeah.
Player development.
St. Louis does it too. I mean, you look at St. Louis. St. Louis brings up a random guy every single week. They're one of the organizations that I don't think gets enough credit for how well they develop guys. And I mean, you look at it, people were saying St. Louis was a third place team this year. There were people saying the Cubs could have a better record than the Cardinals this year. The Cardinals are winning that division by 9 games right now. It's not close. Why? Because Tommy Edman has stepped up, because they called up Donovan, because they've called up all these guys, and they just keep performing. It's unbelievable. So I think the Cardinals are another team that don't get enough credit.
I mean, I do want to point out again, one more time, like the Trash Pans are playing for a playoff berth thing. So, I mean, I do believe that in the end, the Angels organization has gotten better at the minor league level, but it's still just not enough. And they're behind the 8 ball because other teams have been so far ahead of them that now it's playing catch up, and they got to play catch up faster. That's just the reality of it. Jared, last thoughts?
Chase Silseth looks good. He's built for the playoffs.
There we go. All right, folks, time for us to go. Follow Jared on Twitter at Jared_Tims. Follow Nate at Nate Green 34, and follow me at DC Ciapola. Talking Halos as well. We're on Facebook. We don't talk much there, but we're still there. And of course, we're anywhere podcasts can be found. In the meantime, we'll see you Sunday with hopefully a more interesting podcast than we had today. We're out of here.